Hello everyone, here we are on the last day of March already. And I get a lot of questions from people wanting to know what this bumpy stitch is that I've outlined the grids with. And there is a video somewhere earlier where I talk about how to stitch the grid using actual stitches, like whipped running stitch, which I can't see an example of it at the moment. Most of these are couched, and that's what this bumpy stitch is. It's silk boucle yarn, which is a kind of a bumpy yarn. And if you kind of tease the ends apart, you can see how it's made up. You can kind of separate these ends here. I mean, like most threads, it's plied, so it's made of 2 or 3 strands of separate threads that are sort of twisted together. But in the case of boucle, it's all the separate threads are applied together unevenly, so that makes this kind of twisty, bumpy kind of effect. But what you can do once you've teased these ends out is you can thread them through a big needle. This is a chenille needle, which is like a tapestry needle, but it's got a sharp point. Tapestry needles are blunt, chenille needles are pointed. So I'm just going to, I'm thinking I might do some sort of circle here, so I'm going to take it down maybe on the side, I think. And it will pull through because the needle's got such a big eye that it will pull through. It will also make a hole in your cloth, but that doesn't matter because the yarn will fill it. So I'm just going to pull this through, if I can get hold of it. Actually, I can't pull that through anymore without disturbing the plies. So I'm just going to leave it like that. And then I've got a coordinating fine silk, and I'm just going to stitch it down. So there are lots of ways you can do this. You can do it with a different colour. You can do it with a different kind of thread. Or you can do it as I am, with a fine coordinating thread, in which case your stitches become kind of invisible. And I haven't drawn this circle first. That may turn out to be a schoolboy error. But let's see. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's not a perfect circle. It doesn't matter to me. If it matters to you, then draw a circle first, or whatever shape you want. And you can see I'm literally just stitching it down with an overcasting stitch. Very easy. Just turned it around so I can get at it. And you can see that I haven't cut this. It's still coming off the spool. I'll cut it when I've got back to the beginning, or the end. The end is the beginning is the end. And we'll see how that goes. It just cuts out the guesswork of how much will I need. So I'm just coming back round here. And when I get to this end, I'm just going to park that. So now I can cut this off, probably about there. And same thing again. I can thread these. I'm just going to trim that end so they're all the same length. Thread that end through there and just send it back down, just like we did at the beginning. And then we can just do a little stitch over that join. And there we are. And I've still got some of this fine silk left, so I'm just going to go around the outside. Fairly predictably, they're a bit like sort of sunshiny rays, aren't they? that's okay. We don't have to invent the wheel every time we do this. It's just, I mean, the value is in the doing. You could stitch the same thing every day if you wanted to. It would have exactly the same value, because it's the act of stitching that has the value, the calming focus and just a bit of time out. So I'm just doing straight stitches around here. And you'll notice when you do straight stitches around a circle, you're kind of angling your stitches as far as you can to kind of make an even pattern around the outside. So the gap between your stitches on the inner edge is smaller than the gap between your stitches on the outer edge, because each stitch is kind of part of the radius. Which I guess is why we say they radiate. So I'm just going to go all the way around, right back to the beginning, and then we'll have a look at it. Right, so I've gone all the way around. I mean, it's not quite round, is it? It's more sort of oval-ish, which is fine. That's okay. What I'm going to do now is, and I can see that you might be tempted to do a little face on there, mightn't you? Like an old-fashioned engraving sort of sun, moon, stars type face. I'm not going to do that. Firstly, I'm not confident of my ability to stitch a face. But I mean, secondly, I don't really like faces. I prefer something a bit more abstract. So I'm just going to bring a slightly thicker thread. This is Silk Pearl 8. Slightly thicker thread in a very similar colour, coincidentally. And I'm just going to do a little running stitch around the edge, the inner edge, that should be. And we'll see how that looks. It may or may not be a sensible thing to do, but it really doesn't matter. This is just one day out of many. Every day does not have to be spectacular. Sometimes the best we can do is get through the day. Not that today is one of those days. Today has started off reasonably well. The day is young, as they say. I mean, I guess I am an optimist, really. You wouldn't think so sometimes, but I kind of tend to hope for the best. That's a little lap of running stitch. And I think I might just carry on doing that into the middle. And I think what I'm going to try and do is match up the stitches, which again may or may not be the right thing to do. But then if there are no rules, there's no right and wrong. So I'm not going to worry about it. And you can see that, well, I don't know if you can see on the camera, but the entire cloth is supported on a table, and I'm just holding the bit I'm working on. And I find that's just as good as using a frame or a hoop. I don't like the way frames and hoops squash the rest of your stitching. You know, if you put that in a hoop that would be sort of that size, it would squash all these previous stitches. I don't like the way it does that. I also don't like the way it stretches the fabric flat. You know, I like the fabric to feel relaxed. You can see I'm getting to a point here where I'd have to do stitches that are too small, so I'm just going to do one to bridge that gap. And again there. You can see how that's working. It's kind of a stacked running stitch that's, again, doing this kind of radiating thing, which echoes these outside stitches. And I'm just thinking about where I'm going to stop, because I think I want to leave a little gap in the centre. So I'm going to take this thread down very soon. Probably about there. So there we go, I'm going to call that finished for today. I've got some thread left, so I've just brought that up into the next door box, because that will be the 1st of April for tomorrow. So there we go. One way to use textured or boucle yarn. And it doesn't have to be silk boucle, of course. It could be, I mean, these are threads that I dye myself. I sell these, well, for now, I sell these in my shop. I can't actually get any more of this one, so the next batch of fine cotton boucle will be the last, and that'll be out in the shop probably next month. But, you know, you can scour charity shops for interesting yarns. You can often find oddments in the, you know, section where they have knitting yarns. So that's another textured yarn from a charity shop. You know, you can find some really interesting things that are not expensive, and they're very useful for couching down, adding a bit of texture, and that kind of thing. And then you can, I mean, you can even use standard knitting yarn. This is left over from some a jumper that I knitted. But you can see here, this is something similar. If you couch it down with straight stitches over the top of it, it kind of flattens the yarn and it becomes more like tape. You know, if you do the stitches kind of slightly wider than the yarn, it keeps it down nice and flat. There's another example there. So, you know, you can choose how to couch it. You can couch it with small stitches so it stays raised, or you can flatten it with straight stitches so it stays down. Entirely up to you. There are lots and lots of different ways of using textured yarns for couching. So I encourage you to find some and have a go. So there we go, that's the last day of March, and I will, later today, I will have a blog post showing the whole of March, if you're interested in seeing that. I suggest subscribing to my blog. It's stitchinglife.uk, and that's where you'll find updates on, well, what I'm doing generally, and I often put shop updates on there as well, so you'll know when new threads are coming out, and etc. So that's my next job. After that, I've got lots more to do today, and I will see you probably at some point later in the week. So have fun today and see you soon.